Hello, thank you for tuning in to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. It is now time for Side by Side, where we discuss issues relating to conflict, peace, and security. I am Reverend Father Robert Achiaga. Just last week, a sound engineer was killed and burned to death by some commercial motorcyclists in the Lekki area of Lagos State during an argument over 100 naira additional payment. Before then, a mob in Sokoto State overpowered security forces, murdered Deborah Yakubu, set her body ablaze, and went on rampage when few of them were arrested. Those arrested were charged to court with watery charges, leading to the suspicion that even the Sokoto State government was cowed by the mob. A curfew was imposed in Sokoto State by the state government to prevent further breakdown of law and order. Kaduna State and others proactively banned religious protests, also for fear of mob action. The Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, had called for public protest to hold yesterday, Sunday, to demand justice for Deborah. But even this directive was later adjusted as Christians were asked to limit their protests within the premises of their churches or CAN secretariats. Ultimately, many did not stage the protest, partly because of possible mob action. In Day Building Materials Market, Abuja, last week, a rampaging mob destroyed shops, goods and vehicles amounting to hundreds of millions of naira. They also attacked motorists on the highway for hours. Confrontations between policemen and mobs are all too common in Nigeria these days. They resist arrests, vandalize police vehicles, attack officers of law, destroy public property, and disturb public peace and order. Currently, many in Nigeria are worried that, given the tension created by religious groups about cases of alleged blasphemy and mob punishment, coupled with primaries of political parties built to happen soon, and threats by the National Association of Nigerian Students to protest the ongoing strike, we might witness a rise in mob action and violence. This projection has made it necessary that we reflect on mob violence, its nature, the factors that fuel it, its dangers, how to prevent it, how to quell it, and other related issues. And that is why the topic of discussion on today's edition of Side by Side is tackling the challenge of mob violence. Tackling the challenge of mob violence. We are graciously joined in the studio by AIG Willson Inalegwu Rtd. He's a former commissioner of police in the FCT. You are welcome, sir.
Pleasure for me to be.
Now, before we get started on tackling the challenge of mob violence, let us take a look, as usual, at some headlines of interest. We begin with the foreign scene. First, world faces big challenges over COVID, monkeypox, and wars. That is according to the World Health Organization. The Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, sounded this warning yesterday while speaking in Geneva, where experts were discussing the monkeypox outbreak in 15 nations outside Africa, with more than 80 cases having been confirmed already in Europe, the United States, Canada, Australia, and Israel. Here is some of what he said. I quote him. Of course, the pandemic, that is the COVID pandemic, is not the only crisis in our world. As we speak, our colleagues already around the world are responding to outbreaks of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo, monkeypox and hepatitis of unknown cause, and complex humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, the Syrian Arab Republic, Ukraine, and Yemen will face a formidable convergence of disease, drought, famine, and war, fueled by climate change, inequity, and geopolitical rivalry, unquote. Another headline on the international scene says, governments should subsidize food and energy. That is according to IMF boss. Now, AIG Wilson Inalegwu. We are having a convergence of all kinds of ills on the international scene now. There is a food crisis. Some governments, like the government of India, currently have banned the exportation from India of products like wheat. So we are in for tough times. We are seeing also a resurgence of COVID, some infections in places like North Korea. It is a closed society, so they do not divulge information about what is going there, but we are aware that it is becoming a serious challenge in North Korea now. And we are talking about Ebola still being a struggle in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We are talking about monkeypox now. So if we combine this with other security challenges, especially in Nigeria, it means we need to sit up, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We are in for tough times. And all that you have mentioned impact one way or the other on the security situation. Talking of health, we are all aware during the total lockdown in 2020, people couldn't go to work, they didn't go to the workers and the rest of it. Then, we are now having the challenge of a resurgence of COVID, monkeypox, Ebola, and others. So all this will impact. Then, the ongoing war or military action between Russia and from reports that I read, Ukraine is a major producer of goods and other products. The Mariupol, the Black Sea port, today cannot export the grains that are just loaded. The price of diesel continue to skyrocket from the mere 200 and something naira now to 720 naira. That means it's going to impact on farming, even in Nigeria. You are not going to get the tractors. Substance farming cannot feed us. So we need commission. And the farmer is going to pass the price of rising diesel and maintenance. So all this is going to impact very significantly on the security situation. What did us call for? We are in such perilous times because for social reflection. Because for people, citizens, to be well focused. And even before I go that far, even the price of fertilizer, last year, fertilizer was selling about 10,000, 12,000, 15,000. Now fertilizer has gone to about 25,000. And it's just rising with it. So farmers are going to find it very difficult. Yields might be poor. Thank God the rains came early this year. But because for vigilance, because for more hard work, so that we can deal with some of this situation. Then coming home on security services, coming to talk about the incident in Sokoto, the one in Lagos, the one in Kano, Kano, they're very troubling. And again, it calls for vigilance at all times. And people must recognize that when you join hands with one, two, or more people to commit violence, either to burn a house or to kill an individual for whatever offense, is a violation of the penal laws and the Constitution. Because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provides, Section 33 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, specifically, Section 33 subsection 1. It says every person shall be entitled to life, and no one shall be intentionally deprived of his life, save in the execution of a sentence of court of competent jurisdiction in Nigeria. Therefore, when you kill unlawfully, you have committed an offense under the laws of Nigeria, either under the penal code law as applicable to northern Nigeria or the criminal code law as applicable to southern Nigeria. And so, people who take laws into their hands are liable upon arraignment and conviction in court to punishment as prescribed under the law.
We're going to take other headlines on the home front in Nigeria. And the first says, Federal Capital Territory Administration to spare indigents in Karo demolition. For residents of the FCT, demolition is a word you don't like to hear. And the indigents sometimes are hit hard by demolition. And in this case, it is quite some good news to hear that the demolition exercise that will be carried out in Kano will spare the indigents. We have this other headline that says, OPSH trains 122 vigilantes. The Special Task Force maintaining peace in Plateau and some parts of Bauchi and Kaduna states, Operation Safe Haven, that is OPSH, has trained 122 youths to assist the security agencies to ensure security in the communities of Sanga, local government area of Kaduna State. Sanga is among the local government areas in southern Kaduna that has been suffering attacks by gunmen in recent times. So this vigilante approach to the security question in Nigeria, we see that in Plateau and also for Kaduna State, members of the Operation Safe Haven have trained vigilantes and helped them, equipped them with skills to be able to carry out the vigilance work in a more effective and efficient manner. Is this the right way to go?
Like we have always said, you cannot have the presence of security as showing up in training of all our communities. So what does happen is the training is not for them to bear weapon. Check. It's not to carry fire. They may need. You have to train them on observatory skills. I recall when I was here, I talked about observatory skills. See something, say something. How can they see something and make a determination of what to do? So, otherwise, 120 something, ordinarily it's not a very large number. But if you embed them, if they're embedded in the communities, they can do a lot of good job. And even from time past, the village community security system has been part of the security architecture of our nation. And why do I say that? The Nigerian Police Force, NPA, have always had a policy of the Police Community Relations Committee, PCRC. And in that is embedded a community vigilance group. That means they say, look, if a community, for example, let's take an example of a community in Ido, along the airport road. What they are saying is, the village head there can have a small security committee in that community. But they say that when they want to have a vigilante group, the names are submitted to the DPO. The DPO will screen them and send them to the Commissioner of Police. Now, if you have 10 vigilantes, we expect that whenever they want to go out on patrol, they'll have 1 or 2 police officers, conventional police officers, regular police officers, accompany them to guide them. In that way, they act as force multiplier. So it's been part of the system. If you see the village security committee, the local government security committee, and the state security committee, and the national security coordinating committee, that is why when you hear the president meet with the service chiefs and all that, you hear the governor, the commissioner of police, brigade commander, then the local government, the DPU, the DSS, then the district or ward level. So all these are part of the national security architecture. So, but when these people are there, well, I think what the operation said to have us try to do is, look, we know these people are there, but we've got to have a record of them. We've got to know who you are using. So, more importantly, when you bring them there, it's as they train them, they have a record of them. They're able to know who is doing what. But if you don't structure it that way, you find all manner of people, and then they become a problem to the community. So so first of all, it's not a bad thing to train them, because it gives you an opportunity to tell them the do's and the don'ts. 2, it enables you to have a record of them, and you are not having hoodlums, cultists being part of them. So that organized approach is commendable.
Now, speaking of observatory skills and vigilance and vigilantes and information gathering, we have a relevant headline here, and this is about Lagos State. It says, bandits posing as Okada riders invade Lagos. 3 million trooped in within 2 years. Just context to these headlines. Now, last week, Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, placed a ban on Okada riders in 6 local government areas of the state. And this didn't come as a surprise to many, both within Lagos State and outside Lagos State. And that's because some security reports over time had revealed that a good percentage of those parading themselves as commercial motorcyclists were indeed hoodlums, and also among them people who were criminals. So investigations by the Saturday Vanguard, for instance, revealed that many riders of Okada in Lagos were from Chad, from Niger, and other parts of the African continent. You know, this leads one to question the efficacy of our immigration services. But again, further findings showed that most of these Okada riders sneaked into the state at night, hiding their motorbikes in between goods coming in from other states. While majority of those whose operations were banned in states like Enugu, Abia, Akwa Ibom, Kano, Borno, Cross River, and Kaduna, among other states, find Lagos as a conducive ground to eke out a living. Others use the opportunity to continue with criminal activities. In Kabusa in Abuja here, for instance, one of the most recurrent crimes is involves snatching of Okada. And with the recent case in Day, we are told that Okada men were also involved. So let's look into this. Okada men moving into FCT, into Lagos, into all of that. What should be done in order to make sure that Their source of living is not taken away from them, but also the security of communities into which they move is guaranteed.
First of all, I don't want any impression created that the government or anybody is criminalizing poverty. Because we know that there is poverty, there is unemployment. Therefore, a lot of people go into do several things to make a living. That's not that. But I think government has not been very serious at all levels, from the local government to state. And why do I say that? Father, when we were growing in the village, you couldn't have a bicycle without a bicycle license. Even a radio license. You see, these things, in addition to revenue generation, gives you an opportunity to have a database, a record of people in those communities. Every Okada sleeps somewhere. It doesn't matter whether they come at night, in the day, but yes, you can ban. And I think it has been very helpful in the FCT, because women can now move it, at least with their bag. Not somebody riding by the side, boom, and it's gone. And when you see some crimes that Okada is used to commit, you really get scared. But I think one of the things government used to do is you have your motor licensing offices. The question I ask, these bikes, how many of them use it with plate number?
None.
How many of them have rider's license?
None.
Class A or something. So, people are riding Okada. You don't have record of them. They are not licensed. Before you even go into a blanket ban, have you attempted to register? Have you attempted to have photograph on the riders? Because you think there are so many years, but take, for example, Kuje. If Kuje local government is assisted by the police, the road traffic services, otherwise known as VIO, and other relevant agencies, it's okay. In Peggy, within Peggy, you have different communities. Let us know how many people have bike. The government is raking a lot of revenue. And then you know. And then you say, anybody who is not registered, once your Okada is seen, outright forfeiture, impounding forfeiture to government. That is all. But when you try this, and it's not working out, then you say, okay, look, we have limited number that can operate within this environment. And then you progress like that. Or you can metropolitan Abuja, of course you can have Okada. The roads are not constructed to have Okada operate. It is not only in Nigeria. I was part of Okada enforcement in 2006 at Siaka Stevens, Freetown, Sierra Leone. Okadas were getting involved in crime like they are doing in Nigeria. And the Sierra Leone police and the VIO, we in the UN had to monitor, and I was the one representing United Nations police. And we monitor, and we say, okay, we're going to restrict the operation of Okada. We'll keep them outside of Siaka Stevens, which is the main street, like the main street. So it is not only in Nigeria. So first of all, it is not out of place to ban them, the operation in certain places, especially when they're getting involved in crime. That's number one. Number two, even in the places you allow them, those that are unregistered, those riders unlicensed, because you're going to have a lot of amputation. They don't have license. And some of them, in the course of registering them, you know, these ones are Nigerians, these ones are Chadians, these ones are Cameroonians, these ones are Benoi and the Togolese and the rest of them. Then you're able to say, okay, immigration. We've got some people who want to obtain rider's license for Okada or register their plate number. They can't even speak English. They speak French. So in that way, you are building a database of all Okada riders within a locality. Within Okokomaiko, for example, in Lagos, within Festac, within Satellite Town, and all the other places in Lagos. So the first step is, in addition to restricting them to certain local government areas, there must be detailed database. We've got to know which state they come from, which village they come from. And we must find a way of checking all this and they must have NIN for it. Just before they register their bike, they must have NIN. And then the police can even view their database, taking their biometrics, their fingerprints. So the problem is, you don't have any record. The Nigerian police, they are miracle workers. Because you come to think of it, a place like Boundary, Lagos, how are you able to know who has committed crime if you see the human traffic within Boundary and all those areas?
And then have been banned.
Yeah. You know, what the FCT, I think, tried to do is, some communities are expanding, locals are settlement and the rest of it. But those that the indigenous have stayed, I think they have a policy, which I don't know details. But the truth is, we must be systematic in our government. Crime control is not about law enforcement alone. The doctor in the hospital is part of crime prevention. The VIO office, the village head, the market women, it is a collaborative effort.
Collaborative effort. Now, just two other headlines before we go on our short break. This one says, Soludo places 10 million naira bounty on killers who beheaded Okoye in Anambra State. You remember late Okechukwu Okoye. He was a member representing Aguata 2 constituency at the State House of Assembly. He was abducted by unknown gunmen sometime last week. On Saturday, his head was found without his body at Nnobi in Idemili South, local government area of Anambra State. The unknown gunmen have threatened to murder even more Anambra lawmakers. Killings and arson have actually been on the rise in the state since March 17, when Professor Charles Soludo was sworn in as the governor of the state. No fewer than 4 local government headquarters in the state and several police stations have been attacked and set ablaze within this period. There is this other headline that says, insecurity, improved synergy between Nigerian Air Force, others, has enhanced operations. That's according to the Defense Minister. The Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, retired, made this statement at a seminar marking the 58th anniversary of Nigeria Air Force in Kano, with the theme, enhancing NAV's operational efficiency in joint operations for effective response to contemporary national security imperatives. Indeed, if there is a stronger synergy between the forces, between the security agencies, our security lot in the country will be the much better for it. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we'll begin our discussion on tackling the challenge of mob violence. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. You have been listening to Side by Side. And now we shall begin in earnest our discussion on tackling the challenge of mob violence. Again, our guest is AIG Willson Inalegwu Rtd. Now, AIG Inalegwu, you have had to deal with mobs and mob actions again and again as a law enforcement officer at the highest level, really, and in different states of the federation, even outside Nigeria. So, can you describe for us what mobs and mob actions are about? When you have seen a lot of it, what's your impression about what mob action, mob violence really is about?
Thank you. First of all, in my introductory remarks, I have talked about it, that when one or two or more persons intentionally agree to carry out an unlawful act by either killing or destroying property, that's mob action or jungle justice. And this is happening sometimes when people unfortunately begin to lose faith in the state to be able to protect their rights. They tend to take laws into their hands. It is wrong. Number two, when they think they can get away with it, that also encourages them. Also, people kind of mob action when they feel, oh, we have made report, these people, there's nothing they are doing, even if you can't give them to police, the guy will be freed. The idea is, if the public needs to be treated, constantly talked to, so that they get to know the process of justice, though slow, but surely get there.
I'm going to task you to do just that, because apart from describing what mob action is about, a group of people taking laws into themselves,
one, two, or more persons,
into their hands,
yes,
for all kinds of reasons.
Yes.
You mentioned that we need to talk to the public about it,
Yes.
And this is the platform, really. So I'm going to ask, what are the procedures that the ordinary citizen should know, so that when they feel there is an infraction on their rights, they take those procedures instead of taking laws into their hands? Some people do not know what they should do.
Now, I think the law permits a private person to arrest a person who is found committing an offense in his presence and to hand over to the police.
Not to put tire on their
No.
neck.
That is why I say Section 33, Subsection 1 of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, provides for right to life. And that a person can only be deprived of that right to life through an action of a court of competent jurisdiction in Nigeria. Otherwise, if you intentionally take life, either in a group, you have committed culpable homicide, punishable death, or murder, as in the South. Therefore, all I want to say is that have confidence in law enforcement. When somebody is doing something, restrain the person, invite the police. Go and give evidence. It is a different thing. When you are prosecuting a case, of a criminal case, the burden of proof is on the prosecution, on the police, or any other person prosecuting. And it must go beyond reasonable doubt. You cannot come and say, I had John killed Tony, and then police just arrest Tony. They will demand for the knife. They will demand who saw him, either circumstantially or directly. So, if you don't have that, and out of emotion, you just pick somebody that the villagers say, this is the man troubling the community. You hand him over to the police will keep him. They'll take him to, if you pressurize them, take him to, but they need evidence, because the essence of investigation is to be able to link a suspect with crime. And how do you link a suspect with crime? When nobody has come forward to give you statement, when nobody has come to tell you, I saw, or he was the last person I saw with him. So the process of proof, that is what gets the public disturbed. That, oh, if you give them to police, they will collect bribe and release the person. So the public should be able to say, should have the patience to come with evidence so that the person can be convicted. In that way, we are able to deal with mob violence. But what is happening in the Southeast is pure criminality, and all mob actions criminal. But what is happening in the Southeast is extremely very very disturbing.
Before we even focus on the Southeast, let's take a look at the case of the mother of Deborah Yakubu. The governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, has informed that there were actually security personnel there. They got there well in time and were almost securing Deborah. But according to him, they were overpowered by the mob. Now, it's the same story that the father of Deborah, who saw his daughter killed before his presence, it's the same story she told to the public. So, some people may be wondering, how is it that armed law enforcement agents get overpowered by a mob?
Well, first of all, may the soul of Deborah rest in peace. It is possible to overcome it, because appreciating a situation happens in a split second. The thing starts like a small fire, and you get there, you get blocked by all manner. That is why speed is important. Before things degenerate, it can get out of hand very quickly. So, let me tell you, by the training of security personnel, the first thing they think about is how to solve the crime. So people run to police station, run to other places. But it's easy. If, for example, you are 10 police personnel, I have a crowd of about 200 people, wielding knives and all that. It can happen, unfortunately so. And so what it does require there is you need to act on time, act speedily, especially when it's something that is highly volatile, a place that is highly volatile. You don't need to detain within that vicinity. In fact, you can whisk the person out of the entire local government.
Talking about acting fast, because they say...
So there's a response, rapid response.
Yes. You have heard about the incident that took place in the building materials market.
Yes.
And as we're on radio now, some people from Day are listening to us. They usually call frequently on this show. Now, things got out of hand. By the time security personnel arrived there, many vehicles, many shops had already been burnt. Now, let's imagine you have the people of Day, the businessmen there, the Okada people there before you, and you want to talk to them about how they could have prevented everything that resulted from that mob action from taking place. What kind of steps would you recommend to them?
Yeah, the first of all, once that Okada man had the accident and all that, the moment you are able to take that person to hospital very quickly, get the guy, put him in the vehicle, head straight to the hospital. Before they argue, take the people, you are gone. You have stopped. You see, you know why people do what they do? There is a process. Once such a riot or crowd violence wants to start, it starts with two people arguing. When they start to argue, they say we no go gree, we no go gree. Meaning a kind of small demonstration. The story starts to spread. Once it starts to spread, others begin to join. I say, what is after? What is going on? This takes 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's growing. The next thing is, so we will start fighting. Great confusion. The next thing is, you know why they set fire? So how do we to root? As it develops, the fire stage is to create an enabling environment for looting and other crimes. And that is why, when I came on this program some weeks or so back, I gave out the police helplines. Rapid response will stop any more march. If you are able to get to the scene within 3-5 minutes, those who are the Okada one that is jammed, you pick this, they leave the scene.
I was also going to ask.
Nothing happens. So, rapid response. And that is why every person must have police helplines, either the force of the state or that of the local police. Because timely action, they say a stitch in time saves life. So once you are able to act quickly, you are able to douse tension. Because the people start arguing. Others, the man doesn't just fall on the ground, boom, and they start burning. It takes a process. It builds from that anger. It builds from physical. It builds somebody coming to make comment. Before they come, you have taken them.
But I was going to ask, the core interest of the police is prevention of breakdown of law and order. So, is it not possible for the police to profile different locations, say in the FCT, and then station their own personnel there, so that if there is a build-up to crowd violence, they are the first respondents there? Because what we see sometimes is the police station is distant from the locale of the violence. At least there are some places where you know there will always be the risk of mob action. Look at where you have markets. In Kabusa, for instance, we have the market. It is not too far from the police station. But you don't have a police post within the market. Is it not possible to look at very busy places where crowd violence can spring up, and then there will be need for rapid response, and so station police or security personnel there?
I think that is what you have. Have you been to the office of a DPO? You see the map. You see there are pins. Some are red, some are yellow, some are green. For example, Wose Market Junction. We always have 247 police presence. I'm sure you have seen. If you go to Bega, you have present. Even in day, the police people, you see, we do what you call place policing. What do I mean by place policing? You look at an area that is prone to criminality or violence, you concentrate there. You also, it does happen. But in terms of some of these things, you may need the reinforcement quickly. And you know that if you talk of the logistical support of the NPF, it's very abysmal. But that is how, you don't go and police a place that is just no crime is happening. If you go to Pape, all those areas, you must find police. But the adequacy of the number and having that necessary resources, because the crowd can build up quickly. But the cost of that will make the fire burn quicker. You take them out of the place and you say, oh, the police are taking them. But the way you do it, first of all, the police do their deployment based on certain crime parameters, based on the crime statistics. That's why you find the map all those areas. So it does happen. But you see, we must understand that you cannot stop all violence. The majority, 90–95% you prevent. But one that happens, the whole thing that you have done. That is why even in the police training schools, pass mark is very high. Because any little gap, if you are protecting somebody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 30 or 31 days a month, and one day you sleep, and the person you are guarding is out, the whole of your work is gone. So every step is taken. That's why you have a lot of supervisory visits and the rest of it. I really wish to talk about Anambra, but I don't think we've got the time.
You can.
I feel very. You see.
You can say some things about Anambra. Go ahead.
I feel very, very, very sad. I opened my phone. I don't know which platform sent that's lawmaker's head. It was a very disgusting picture of that. I don't think we should do that on film, because even our faith does not encourage it. But I think my advice would be to the Anambra people to rise up against this violence and say enough. The police and other security agencies must stop this. And you don't wait for your police station to be attacked. Look at all the hospitals, all the India hemp joints, all the places they initiate cultists. You've got to go below the surface and go underground like them and storm their enclave so that they don't have time to prepare. Even if they are in Delta, cross to Asaba, you should have information. I think the Anambra people must support security agencies. They cannot elect their officials and people just getting killed, slaughtered. I think it is possible to stop the violence there. You know, apart from the 10 million the governor has pledged for whoever has information, the governor should also pledge whoever have information, has information about where these people stay to gather, where they store their weapon. There should be adequate compensation for people, persons who volunteer valuable information that lead to recovery of firearms and arrest of these perpetrators. These so-called unknown gunmen are not unknown. The communities know that. After all, in one market, some of them were marketing about some, they were and were going around the market with their weapon. They know them. If I stay with somebody for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, even if you cover everywhere, his movement, I know who that person is. The governor of Anambra and all governors will spend money on intelligence gathering. They must empower among food sellers, among haircut barbers, saloon, hotels. They must develop sources. And there should be special tactical teams that will stop. They should not be, the police and us should be on the offensive. They shouldn't wait for them as lame dog, come and attack police station. No. There must be adequate intelligence gathering. In fact, more money should be given for preventive, like you have said, in terms of intelligence. That means we will, it doesn't take, it's not rocket science. You don't need even 1,000 police personnel. You need just about 50, or maximum 100. in all the 3 senatorial zones, 30, well equipped, highly mobile, and then possibility of reinforcement. So where these people are, there is no need waiting for them anymore. And I feel very sad that a fellow human being can have the head cut and photograph made and circulated, and children will unfortunately see this picture. If it involves spending all the money to stop this carnage, all the governments, not only in the southeast, even northwest, southwest, northeast, north central, it calls for emergency. And the way to go about it is to take it as a child. Why are you doing road? Who will pass on the road? Why are you building schools? Why children can't go to school? Why they can just be kidnapped? The way to fight crime is public support. Public should know that if you give information, it will be treated confidentially and you'll be handsomely rewarded in that way. From this, they should take the battle to their thing. That forest they are decorating, the place is small. Continue to storm their places. They shouldn't have the capacity to attack prisons, attack INEC offices, attack police stations, unless you take the battle to them. If it involves anything, drop a snail from nearby states. It shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't really happen.
And then there should be joint training of all the people. If you are bringing police, civil defense, they put them on joint training, special tactical teams, and intelligence. If we don't do that, we can, and within 1 or 2 weeks, 1 month, we'll stop this rubbish. If we focus on intelligence and timely response.
The event in Anambra is really a sad one, and the security situation generally in the country is getting worse. Over the weekend, Governor El-Rufai in a press conference had even suggested that there might be need to relocate villages along the Kaduna-Abuja road because of insecurity. Earlier, within last week, he had informed that you had the presence of the Ansaru terrorist group, the bandits, Boko Haram, well settled in Kaduna State. We hope that security forces will receive the public support they need, and also state support,
yes,
very important, they need to be able to stem this rising insecurity. We have come to the end of today's edition of Side by Side, and I must say a big thank you to our guest, AIG Willson Inalegwu Rtd, a former Commissioner of Police for the FCT. Thank you very much, sir.
It's a pleasure, it's mine. Thank you.
And our guests, thank you for joining us on today's program. The next edition of Side by Side will come your way on Wednesday, the 25th of May at 11 a.m. Until then, keep listening to Radio Maria 91.3 FM. I am Reverend Father Robert Achiaga. Peace be with you.